Modern society is deeply obsessed with measuring intelligence, often reducing it to numbers and performance metrics that seem objective but are far from complete. From early childhood, individuals are placed into categories based on school grades, standardized tests, and later, professional evaluations. Labels like smart, average, or slow are assigned so casually that they begin to shape identity itself. Over time, people internalize these labels, allowing them to influence confidence, ambition, and even perceived self-worth. This creates a narrow and rigid framework for understanding intelligence, one that prioritizes speed of thinking, logical reasoning, and problem-solving ability above all else. However, this system fails to capture the full complexity of human cognition. It overlooks qualities such as emotional awareness, creativity, adaptability, and the many subtle ways people interpret and respond to the world. As a result, intelligence becomes less about the richness of the human mind and more about how well someone fits into a predefined system. IQ, or intelligence quotient, is a standardized measure designed to evaluate specific cognitive abilities, particularly reasoning, problem-solving skills, and processing speed. The scoring system is centered around an average of 100, with most individuals falling within a typical range near that midpoint. When a person scores below 70, psychologists generally classify it as an intellectual disability, and scores dropping below 40 or 50 are considered severe or profound cognitive impairment. However, it is important to recognize that IQ tests are constructed within a very specific context. They are optimized to measure how well an individual performs in structured, academic-like environments where logic, pattern recognition, and quick thinking are prioritized. This means that many other essential dimensions of human intelligence are left unmeasured. Qualities such as emotional understanding, creativity, social awareness, and the ability to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics are largely excluded. As a result, IQ offers only a partial and limited view of what intelligence truly is. An extremely low IQ does not represent a complete absence of intelligence, but rather a fundamentally different cognitive architecture. Instead of viewing the brain as broken or deficient, it is more accurate to understand it as being organized in a way that processes information through alternative pathways. This distinction is important because it challenges the common assumption that intelligence exists on a single linear scale, where individuals simply have more or less of the same ability. In reality, cognition can differ not only in degree, but also in form. People with very low IQ may struggle with abstract reasoning or complex problem solving, yet they still possess ways of interpreting and engaging with the world that are internally consistent and meaningful. Shifting to this perspective allows us to move beyond deficit-based thinking and toward a more nuanced understanding of intelligence as a diverse and multifaceted system rather than a single, measurable trait. The prefrontal cortex plays a central role in higher-order thinking, including abstract reasoning, planning for the future, decision-making, and the ability to anticipate consequences. It is essentially the part of the brain that allows individuals to step beyond the present moment and mentally simulate different possibilities. In individuals with extremely low IQ, research consistently shows reduced neural connectivity in this region, along with slower overall processing speeds. Because of this, tasks that most people handle automatically, such as understanding cause and effect relationships, adjusting behavior based on outcomes, or navigating subtle and unspoken social rules, can require significantly more cognitive effort. In some cases, these abilities may not fully develop at all. This neurological difference helps explain why certain cognitive challenges appear, not as a lack of effort, but as a direct result of how the brain is structured and processes information. Because of these neurological differences, everyday functioning often requires significantly greater cognitive effort. Tasks that many people perform automatically, such as following multi-step instructions, interpreting indirect language, or anticipating the outcome of a situation, are not intuitive and instead demand conscious attention and repeated practice. This means that even simple activities can become mentally demanding, requiring guidance, structure, and time to process. As a result, responses may appear slower, and adapting to new or unpredictable environments can be particularly challenging. However, this does not imply incapability. When placed in structured, stable, and familiar settings, many individuals are able to function with a high level of consistency. Through repetition and routine, they can develop reliable patterns of behavior, demonstrating that with the right environment, effective functioning is not only possible but sustainable. Despite clear cognitive limitations in areas like abstract reasoning or complex problem solving, many individuals with very low IQ demonstrate surprising strengths in other domains. One of the most notable is emotional sensitivity. They often respond deeply to tone of voice, facial expressions, and subtle emotional cues, allowing them to connect with others in ways that are genuine and immediate. In addition, they tend to rely heavily on procedural memory, which is the ability to learn through repetition and routine rather than conceptual understanding. Through consistent practice, they can develop stable habits and perform familiar tasks with reliability over time. This creates a form of competence that is rooted not in rapid thinking, but in consistency and pattern recognition. These contrasting abilities reveal an important insight. Intelligence is not a single uniform capacity, but a system distributed across different cognitive and emotional processes, each functioning in its own way. Rather than relying on abstract reasoning or complex mental models, individuals with extremely low IQ tend to experience the world through direct and concrete interactions. Their understanding is rooted in what is immediately visible, tangible, and emotionally present rather than hypothetical or symbolic thinking. Everyday life is processed through familiar routines, repeated experiences, and strong sensory impressions, which together form a stable framework for navigating reality. Emotional connections also play a central role, often guiding behavior more than logical analysis. While this way of processing may appear limited from an outside perspective, it is internally coherent and meaningful. Within this structure, individuals can develop consistent patterns of behavior, respond predictably to their environment, and build a sense of stability. This highlights that their experience of the world is not chaotic or disorganized, but simply shaped by a different cognitive pathway that prioritizes immediacy and familiarity over abstraction. This perspective leads to a deeper psychological question. How much of what we call intelligence is actually just adaptation to a specific environment? The abilities we tend to label as intelligent are often those that align with success in academic and professional systems, such as analytical thinking, fast processing, and problem solving under structured conditions. However, these systems are not universal representations of human capability. They are designed around particular demands and reward specific cognitive styles while overlooking others that may be equally valuable in different contexts. This suggests that intelligence is not a fixed or absolute trait, but something shaped by the environment in which a person exists. What appears as limitation in one setting may function effectively in another. By understanding intelligence as context-dependent, we begin to see that human cognition is far more flexible and diverse than traditional definitions allow. Psychologist Howard Gardner fundamentally challenged the traditional understanding of intelligence by introducing the theory of multiple intelligences, arguing that human capability cannot be reduced to a single measurable score. According to Gardner, intelligence exists in a variety of forms, including linguistic, logical mathematical, spatial, interpersonal, emotional, and bodily kinesthetic abilities. Each of these represents a different way of processing information and interacting with the world. However, standard IQ tests primarily focus on linguistic and logical reasoning skills, which means they capture only a narrow slice of overall human potential. As a result, individuals who may struggle in academic or structured testing environments can still possess strengths in other areas that are equally meaningful but less recognized. This perspective reinforces a crucial idea. A low IQ score does not reflect a lack of human value, nor does it mean an absence of important abilities that contribute to connection, expression, and real-world functioning. Perhaps the most profound insight is that the core elements of human experience, love, loyalty, fear, joy, and connection, are not governed by the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and abstract thinking. Instead, These experiences originate in deeper and more ancient brain structures, particularly the limbic system, which processes emotion and drives fundamental human responses. In individuals with extremely low IQ, these emotional systems often remain largely intact, and in many cases, they function with remarkable depth. Research consistently shows that such individuals are capable of forming strong emotional bonds, expressing genuine affection, demonstrating loyalty, and responding sensitively to care, tone, and warmth from others. This challenges one of our most deeply rooted assumptions that intelligence, as measured by cognitive ability, defines what it means to be human. In reality, the qualities we value most in human life are not dependent on high-level reasoning, but emerge from emotional and relational systems that exist far beyond what any IQ test can measure.